Welcome into Sports Burst. I'm Andres Cordero, and there are just 7 days left before the return of La Liga. We continue our countdown with this season's top 7 players wearing the number 7. Plus, they are 2 of the most expensive signings in La Liga history, but neither a fan favorite nor a permanent starter. We're going to ask who has the better future at their current club, Gareth Bale or Ousmane Dembele. Plus, the lack of actual live football has had us talking way too much transfer talk. We'll tell you which stories we are frankly bored with. You can do the same. Send us your thoughts, your questions, your football haikus in the comment section. We're Sports Bursting. 7 days. That is all that is left before La Liga returns live on beIN Sports. In fact, this time next week, we'll be staring at our phones, waiting for the Sevilla-Betis lineups to come out. We might be there a while because that's a 4 p.m. kickoff, but hey, you express your excitement how you like. I'll stare at Twitter for 3 hours before that derby. Our first touch on the show today is a tribute to the number 7. Joining us on Sports Burst, beIN Sports contributors Eric Krakauer and Kaylin Kyle. Good to see the both of you. Hope that you'll be back with us in studio soon. 7 days left, and we continue our countdown to La Liga, looking at the top 7 performers wearing the number 7 this season. Here they are in alphabetical order, so this is not a ranking, but rather just the 7 players we are highlighting. Joao Felix, I don't think it's alphabetical either, actually, now that I look at it. Joao Felix of Atletico Madrid, Eden Hazard of Real Madrid, Wule of Espanyol. Wule would be last if that were alphabetical. Jaime Mata of Getafe, Gerard Moreno, Lucas Perez, and Porto, one of my personal favorites, Porto making that list. So let's get both of you to just tell us who stands out, I guess, from that number 7s, 7 days away from La Liga. We'll begin with you, Kaylin.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good list. I can't wait. I mean, 7 days away. I actually thought I missed my shift this morning. I got a notification that Sports Burst was on, but we're back on time. But definitely for me, obviously, Felix and Hazard are incredible players, but Joao Felix, for me, hasn't performed to his potential. Yes, he's very young. I think he's at the wrong team to fit his strengths of his playing style. And then Hazard has struggled with injury. So hopefully he'll be back once season returns in those 7 days. But you mentioned him, Porto. I mean, for Real Sociedad, they have been absolutely flying. He's got 7 goals, 8 assists in 19 appearances. I mean, yes, he's playing. They just have a dynamic front 5, and they're sitting in 4th place. I mean, we can go back and look because I think everyone at the office had to pick their top 5, and I'm not sure anyone had Real Sociedad in that top 5. I know I didn't, but he has been a fantastic player this season. And then Jaime Mata for Getafe. He's been outstanding as well. And again, Getafe sitting in 5th place. He has 8 goals, 3 assists in La Liga, and then Europa League, he's got 3 goals. So those 2 players for me, outside of Joao Felix and Hazard, that have been injury-plagued a bit and kind of inconsistent, I think those 2 for me stand out in the number 7 jerseys. Yeah, again, I mentioned Porto when we saw that list because there's been so much talk in Real Sociedad of the work that Mikel Merino has done this season, especially of the work that Odegaard has done this season, and even Alexander Isak of late. But it seems like Porto hasn't maybe gotten quite the credit where he's been sensational for them in games that you and I have called together, Eric. But I'm guessing you're going in a different direction.
Well, sort of. I want to highlight Lucas Perez because he's been one of the most important players to his team in this La Liga campaign. 11 goals for Alaves as they try to stave off relegation, and it seems like they may have just done that unless they completely collapse in this marathon dash sprint that we have coming up in 7 days. But he has just been remarkable. He has scored 40%, 38% to be exact, of his team's goals, but he's also a facilitator for other players. He's been unbelievable and very close to perhaps reaching the 17 goals he scored in the 15-16 season with Deportivo de La Coruña before it all went wrong when he made the move to the Premier League. But I also want to highlight Porto, like the 2 of you have, because you mentioned, Dre, all those names, Odegaard, Alexander Isak, Oyarzabal, a name as well, but Porto doesn't get the plaudits, he doesn't get the same accolades, but I would argue that he's the player that has allowed, or his dynamism has allowed for all those players to be at their very best, especially Odegaard. The fact that Porto manages to stretch back lines with his speed and truculence allows Odegaard to maneuver in that sort of right-hand side role, even though he's playing in the midfield three. He likes drifting to the right, and you get the best out of Odegaard. So Porto, a great shout by you guys as well.
And Eric, briefly, because I think the debate here at the back end of this list is, you'll notice, no Gonzalo Guedes on the list, right? The Valencia youngster hasn't played a ton this season, only 10 games. His productivity hasn't been great. So we actually added Wule from Espanyol, who has 4 goals, I believe, this campaign, and has been playing quite well, but for a last-place team. So could I just get your thoughts on Guedes exclusion and Wule inclusion? Are we right?
Yeah, I think so, but not through Guedes' own fault. I mean, he's been injured a lot this season, much like Hazard and João Felix. He had a tremendous campaign last season. He hasn't been able to reach those heights in the current campaign, but it's mostly because of injury. Also, everything that was going on there with the team, with Marcelino leaving and Albert Celades coming in, so the transitional period. As for Wule, Dre, you and I were on the call for his very first game for Espanyol, and we saw just the explosiveness that he adds to the attack. At the beginning of this campaign, he was not nearly as impactful, but when Abelardo arrived to try and save the club, he once again figured prominently, and now his numbers are showing that. He's a real handful, so yes, I think he's a deserved inclusion in this list. Just
looking at some of the comments via our Facebook Live broadcast, Gabby Amato, Gabriel, who hosts this show 3 times a week, writes 7 days, yes, and there's a lot of S's and a lot of A's in her comment. Mustafa Gaber, Eden Hazard can finally prove himself.
You didn't pronounce that right, Dre. It's yes.
There you go. I'm definitely not doing that. Mustafa Gaber, Eden Hazard can finally prove himself for the rest of this season when La Liga returns. He's got 11 games to do that. Brendan Burns, Joao Felix, my personal favorite. I think this actually ties into something you were saying, Kaylin, but he is in the wrong system, so he isn't flourishing the way everyone expected. And then John Ice, to stop Real Sociedad, you have to stop Odegaard's passes between the lines. I'll say he is their most important player. It's tough to pick out who the most important player for La Real is this season, because I think there's at least 4 or 5 guys who I find equally important at the moment, and it's the system at La Real that seems to be thriving, not just the individual players within that system. And so in that regard, I think Imanol, the coach, gets a ton of credit. Just to chime in on this Atletico Madrid thing, it may be true, but I am a little bit tired of hearing about how Joao Felix is playing in the wrong system. Good players, good attacking players, find ways to make an impact. Antoine Griezmann was one of La Liga's best players playing in Diego Simeone's system. Diego Simeone and Atletico Madrid have had some terrific strikers. Diego Costa had his best career year ever, the year they won the title, playing in Simeone's system. So yes, it might not be the perfect system, but it doesn't mean that Joao Felix is not underperforming based on his own sort of merit or lack of. And yes, he's a young player, but I'm a little bit tired of the excuse about the system and pinning it on Simeone. Do either of you want to chime in on that, or do I just move along to the next thing?
Can I jump in real quick? Can I jump in?
Please.
Can I jump in on that real quick?
Of course.
I just think you comparing Joao Felix and Griezmann are completely 2 different playing styles. When Griezmann was successful, he was good on both ends of the ball defensively, got on the counterattack, got in behind the back line. That's not Joao Felix's strength. Joao Felix's strength is getting the ball to feet, and I think interplaying with other players to break the line, to break down back fours, and that's just not the system that Simeone plays. Anyways, that's just my take, Dre. But again, I'm not going to argue with you because I feel like you just know way too much and just put me back into the ground. So.
No, I had to get that off my chest for a moment, because I've been hearing all season how Joao Felix is playing in the wrong system, and there have been some quality attacking players who have been able to thrive in that system. Just full disclosure, I am, as I continue this sort of like negativity, for the most part, I am anti-transfer talk. I think there's way too much misinformation and way too little accountability for when media reports get things wrong. I think it's particularly silly during the season when there's a lot of live football on, but 1, fans love it, and 2, there hasn't been a ton of live football on. So we've been talking about transfer talk. We've been bombarding you with transfer stories. And so we've picked out a few of the stories that we've been giving you throughout the entire social distancing global pandemic, so we can see if we can finally put some kind of finish, some kind of exclamation point on some of these moves. Let's begin. Who's the first one we have here is Lautaro Martinez. We talk so much about Lautaro Martinez to Barcelona. Now, granted, it's just one team that he's been linked with. The latest here is that Catalan dailies Sport and Mundo Deportivo both citing a report from Sky Italia that claims Real Madrid wants to hijack that transfer. Both dailies are citing Sky Italia television reports. We've looked through Sky Italia's website. We couldn't find the report. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But Are either of you buying Real Madrid trying to wedge themselves in this negotiation for Lautaro Martinez? Eric?
Yes, I am, because Lautaro Martinez is a really good player, and I think it would be crazy for Real Madrid not to get into the sweepstakes. Plus, they have the financial ability right now to make this happen, whereas Barcelona, I don't think, do. And it doesn't matter how many players they're going to offer up in exchange for the Argentine. Inter is just not going to accept that deal. So it's more likely than anything that he'll remain at Inter, but do Real Madrid have an opportunity here, and should they be sniffing around? Absolutely.
Kaylin, we've heard
Yeah,
reports.
I completely agree with you on that, Dre. I feel like it's just like a broken record, us talking about him. But he's a great player, so why not? But I do agree, both teams need a player of his magnitude, because Suarez is starting to age, and you've seen this last season struggle with injuries. That's what happens the older you get, and the amount of games, especially with this next stint of 32 games in a row. I mean, it's games every 3 days. And the same thing with Real Madrid. Benzema, he went on that goal-scoring drought earlier in this season. So you need someone that can step in and score goals if these guys aren't, or if they're out injured. Now, do I think the move is now? I don't. He's 22. Stay at Inter one more year. See what happens with Ben. See what happens to Suarez. The ball is always going to be in this guy's court as long as he's staying healthy and putting the ball into the back of the net at Inter. I said before, Barcelona do need to sign him, and I still will stand by that. But I think both teams do need a number 9, because their number 9s right now are aging and getting older.
Yep. Just checking into the comments before we move on. John Ice, going back to our number 7 discussion. To stop Real Sociedad, you have to stop Odegaard. Actually, I think I pointed out that one. Arturo Ruiz asked actually the obvious question, which was, but who is the best number 7 in La Liga right now? And for my money, I just think in terms of the production, if we're doing it based on 2019, 2020 best performers wearing the number 7 on their back, it's Lucas Perez for Alaves, who I think he's tied, or Gerard Moreno would get a shout as well. Those two guys have been performing at a really high level. In Lucas Perez's case, for a team that doesn't score a ton of goals, where it's difficult for those chances to come by, and he has been absolutely phenomenal. So my pick would be Lucas Perez, with Gerard Moreno as a close second for Villarreal. Andrew Conturo, false juicy news sells. We know it. That's why we give it to you. Brendan Burns for Madrid, to directly steal a star player from Barca would be a huge blow for Barcelona. That's one of the reasons why I don't love the transfer talk, because you could see where Madrid sources might be filtering, yeah, we're interested, trying to drive the price up, as opposed to any real interest in signing him. My understanding is that Madrid are not going to make a huge splash in this summer transfer market, given that they've just done it last summer for Eden Hazard, and they have some financial commitments in regards to the stadium renovation. Moving along with Real Madrid, Gareth Bale. The rumor with Bale has been anywhere but Madrid, right? The latest here is that Bale's agent, Jonathan Barnett, suggested that the Welshman does not want to return to the Premier League. Barnett said, quote, he has a very nice lifestyle. I don't see why he doesn't see his career out at Madrid, probably, end quote. We're only a few months removed from Zinedine Zidane saying in a press conference that the sooner Bale left to China, the better. So do either of you see Bale, quote, seeing his career out at Madrid, probably, as his agent says, Kaylin?
I would 100%. I mean, you've seen it when Real Madrid puts out their social media on Instagram, his team winning, and everyone's like, whatever, flexing their muscles, and he's in a golf stance. He's loving his time. He's buying into it. I mean, the thing is he gets slated for playing golf. He gets slated. I mean, look at all these other players crashing cars, going out to nightclubs, stepping out on quarantine issues. He's not doing any of that. So yes, he likes golf. So drop the golf, okay? The guy likes to golf. But he's a fantastic player. If Zidane would just get him on board, get his confidence back, he could really help this Real Madrid side. I mean, you've seen it in the past. You've seen him help win Champions League trophies, league titles. I mean, the guy is absolutely fantastic. But if I am on 350,000 euros a week, I would be sitting pretty at Real Madrid on the bench, whether they wanted me there or not, because realistically, where else is he going to get that money? Ride his contract out. He's loving life. I mean, he's living in one of the best cities in Europe, and he's golfing in his spare time.
I am very much here for the way that Bale just seems to be trolling everyone about the golf of late. Every time you see a training picture, players are sort of lined up the way players do. Bale's taking a swing. Eric, are you seeing Gareth Bale closing out his career at Madrid at some point?
Yeah, and I think he might be actually making more than $350,000 a week. I think it's closer to 600. But then again, my conversion table isn't very good. And who else is going to offer that sort of money? There has been some talk of Newcastle being a potential suitor with the new ownership. But why would he trade the sunshine of Madrid to go to Newcastle? Sorry, Ray Hudson. I know that's the city of your birth. I just think that, you know, as Jonathan Barnett says, staying at Madrid is comfortable, and I think that Gareth Bale will have an impact in this stretch that we're going to go into right now because of the rotations. And perhaps you won't rely on him game in and game out, but the games that he will be involved in, I think he will have something to say about the result, and I think that's a great thing. The only reason I would suggest that he leaves is because I think he's been mistreated not only by the club, particularly by Zinedine Zidane, but also the supporters who seem to have forgotten that a lot of the trophies that they have lining their cabinets came courtesy of Gareth Bale.
Yeah, Bob Flickema seems to be, I really wish I knew how to pronounce it. I think it's Flickema. Says Bale stays because no other team wants to pay his wages. So I think he's echoing the same sentiments that you're both saying. We have a few comments about Barcelona, right? Ryan Moran saying, I really wish Barca would focus their energy on a better option that also benefits their budget. I think that's difficult when you're looking for a number 9 that is going to be the future replacement to Luis Suarez. You're going to have to pay for that and pay at a premium. Deli Bop, Barca can't afford Lautaro Martinez. Real Madrid might take him. Also, they won't be able to sign Neymar either. Where is this money coming from for Barcelona? We've been asking all summer long. And so we stay with Barcelona because the other transfers that have been a bit repeated, maybe less so than Gareth Bale, is Ousmane Dembele. And his agent, Moussa Sissoko, said similarly that he does not see his client leaving Barcelona this summer. So those comments were the French daily L'Equipe, and they got us thinking, Bale and Dembele are 2 of the most expensive signings ever in La Liga, both 100 million plus. Both supremely talented, and yet neither is a fan favorite or a fixed every game starter for their managers. So I'd like to know which of these 2 players has a more promising future at their respective club. Gareth Bale at Madrid, Ousmane Dembele at Barcelona. Let's start with you, Kaylin.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I don't think Bale is ever I don't think he's leaving Real Madrid. I think Dembele at this point, he's been struck with so many injuries at Barcelona that he's really never got going there. He's shown glimpses of being successful. He's shown glimpses of being a fantastic player. But unfortunately, when you get bought for that much money, consistency is the one word that has to follow your name. You're expected to be consistent week in and week out in training and on the field and both on and off the pitch, and he hasn't done either. I mean, you've seen him in the media for all the wrong reasons, outside, not taking care of his body properly, maybe not eating the right things, and then on the pitch, the injury plague. So for me, I'm saying as if I'm Dembele making that kind of money, but if I'm a player of Dembele, I'd want to move. I would want a fresh start. I would want to go somewhere where I know that I'm a good player. I know that I can perform. I know that I can lead a team to titles, but I don't think Barcelona is his stop. I think he needs to move, into which team that is, I have absolutely no idea. Anyone would be lucky enough to have him as long as he stays healthy and gets his mind right and focus on football and football only.
So I'll take that to mean that you believe Gareth Bale has a more promising future at Real Madrid, whatever's left of that, considering we assume that he's going to finish his career.
I don't think he's moving.
Yeah, not Dembele. Dembele does at Barcelona. Eric?
I think short-term, Gareth Bale has the better future. I mean, he's older, so he's going to perhaps spend less time at Real Madrid, even if he sees out his entire career there, which, look, I'm not completely sure. But the problem that afflicts Dembele is the same that has afflicted Gareth Bale. It's the injuries, although Gareth Bale didn't suffer as many injuries as early in his career, and the astronomical wages that he's on. So the suitors are going to be scared to bring on a player who not only earns a tremendous amount of money, but is a real injury risk. Not to mention that I don't think Dembele would be willing to lower his wages even if he was promised regular football elsewhere. So I think in the long term, Dembele will have a better future at Barcelona. Not better, but will have a future at Barcelona. And let's not forget that he is an incredible player. Kaylin is right. He needs to get his mind straight, because we know that he hasn't been the most professional of players, although that had changed a little bit, and it's been the injuries that have derailed his career in Catalonia. So I still think that if Barcelona cannot manage to offload him and they give him an opportunity and his injuries disappear, I still think he can be a very impactful player for the Blaugrana.
Worth noting that when Dembele was healthy under Ernesto Valverde, Valverde seemed to prefer him to Antoine Griezmann, who was still sort of acclimating and trying to get himself integrated into this Barcelona squad. So I think that's curious. I hope I didn't give any Barca fans PTSD bringing up Valverde's name. It still remains to be seen when both are healthy whether Quique Setien prefers Griezmann or Dembele in his Gala 11, the best 11 as they call Gala 11 in Spain. Jadon Sancho, by the way, has been linked with a whole host of clubs, mostly in the Premier League, particularly Manchester United. Why? Because they have a ton of money and they just took out an enormous loan. Is this the time for Jadon Sancho, considering the way that things are going at Borussia Dortmund at the moment? Is this the time for Jadon Sancho to take advantage and make a move somewhere in the Premier League? He is an England international. Or is he still a little bit green and maybe continue to develop in the Bundesliga might be the better option? Eric.
I don't think he's green. I do think that he'll continue to develop. And whether he stays or leaves, I don't think there's necessarily a better option. Look, there's an opportunity here to return to England, and I think he'd probably enjoy that, to Manchester, which is a city where he spent a number of years, albeit on the blue side of town. But if Lucien Favre stays at Dortmund, and that's still a big question mark, I think he perhaps should stay for one more season at Dortmund, because if Dortmund manages to keep Erling Haaland, Sorgen Hazard, and a number of those other players, Rafael Guerreiro, and if Hakimi does not get called back to Real Madrid, this is a team that could continue to grow, continue to mature, and challenge for titles, not only domestically, but also in the European competition, and he would be central to that.
Kaylin, you want to pick up off the back of that?
Eric, I completely agree with what you said. And you said one little thing, continue to develop and grow as a team, but continue to develop and grow as a player in himself there as well, because they put so much faith into the youth there. And it doesn't matter if you have one bad game, they'll give you another opportunity. Whereas maybe if you were to go to a big club, you have a bad game, maybe you get benched a few matches. So I do agree with all your points, Eric, on that move.
So same question for another Borussia Dortmund youngster, Erling Haaland. He's yet to play a full Bundesliga season, but he's clearly destined for big things, which of course means he's persistently linked to Real Madrid, or basically anyone with the cash and the need for a number 9. So same question for Jadon Sancho as for Erling Haaland. Is it best for Haaland to stick around at Borussia Dortmund for a moment or cash in on a big move? I guess we could start with you here, Kaylin.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, but I think for me, looking at the type of player he is, he's just, and I'm not taking anything away from him. I think he's fantastic, and I think he will be one of the best players in the world in years to come. But I think he's not consistent enough game in and week out. I think if he stays there one more year, gets more 90-minute games under his belt, playing every week, then make that move to a big club, whether that be Real Madrid or to whoever. I think that is best case scenario. I don't think necessarily if he were to make that jump to a Real Madrid, would he start over players that are already in that front three? Maybe not. And it's because of the consistency on a weekly basis. You can kind of see him, some games he's flying, and then some games he's a little bit off pace. But that comes with 90-minute matches in a top league, and he's at one right now. So I think one more season there. I mean, again, I said it before, they develop youth, they put their faith into you, they give you confidence, and at big clubs, sometimes they don't do that for youth players. They don't do that for young players. They give you a game here, and then they'll drop you out of the lineup. You saw it with Ansu Fati. He was flying, scoring goals, and then he went to not even playing 5 games in a row. And did he deserve to? In his head, as a young player, you're thinking, yeah, I deserve to be starting over these guys. But unfortunately, that's not how football works at the end of the day when you have players that are on big contracts.
Eric, I won't ask you about that because I want to make sure we squeeze this one in. Enough of the players. What about this coach? Because American Jesse Marsch denying reports that he could be the future replacement for Lucien Favre at Borussia Dortmund. Marsch is saying that he's actually settled in with his Austrian club. Salzburg hasn't had any contact with Dortmund. And so I guess similarly to Jadon Sancho, similarly to Haaland, Jesse Marsch still a relatively new-ish coach, at least when it comes to European football. Would you like to see him make the move to Borussia Dortmund in the nearby future?
At some point, but not right now. He's doing so well with RB Salzburg. He just won his first trophy by winning the Austrian Cup. I think he should remain there to really buffer his resume and then give him a better opportunity and more choices in Europe. There's no doubt that he's a fantastic manager. I hope that Lucien Favre stays at Dortmund because I think he's just a tremendous tactical mastermind. But Marsch will get his chance with Dortmund or somebody else.
Kaylin, you get the last word here, but you only have about 10 seconds.
Okay, I'll go in. I actually had an interview with him a couple weeks back. Unbelievable guy, but I mean, started with New York Red Bull, went to Red Bull Salzburg. He's there right now, was the first American-born to lift a European trophy. I think the next move, he said it to me in the interview and it stuck with me. The thing that he loves about the jump that he made from New York into Europe was because it was a family. It was still in the Red Bull family. So could he go to the Bundesliga, Red Bull Leipzig, to then make a big jump for a huge European team? 100%, I think it could happen. And I think we will see him be one of the top coaches to come in Europe.
I knew you would do it within 10 seconds. Goodbye.